Hey, welcome to RomingerRadio. This is Carl Rominger, your host. 717-916-5189 is the talk number. Again, 717-916-5189 is the talk number. Happy to have you here on the air. Of course, as you know, we broadcast every Sunday and every Wednesday. The hours from summer hours are going to be 8 p.m. on Sundays and 8 p.m. on Wednesdays. We may change that as time goes on again and the days get a little shorter. But I know you'd rather be out mowing your lawn than listening to me. At least I'm pretty sure of that. I know a few of you are listening, so a couple of my regulars, if you want to give us a call, 717-916-5189. Of course, you've never called before. This is your chance to get on the air and discuss whatever you want. Where can we start? Well, I guess the world's going to hell. Remember I did the episode, Where Will World War III Start? Well, there was a Malaysian airliner flying recently, as you've probably heard. If you haven't heard, then you live under a rock, and I'm surprised you know how to get on Spreaker. But if you have heard, to me, that's kind of the thing that sets off the next world war. And why do I say that? Well, it's exactly the kind of event that could occur that drags people in. So there were people from all over Europe on that plane, England, the Netherlands, people from Asia on that plane, and it was shot down with a Russian rocket provided to the rebels by Russia. So obviously, Russia has armed these fellas with the intention of having them beat up on the Ukraine. And of course, probably, and this, of course, the tragedy is, you give these kinds of weapons to amateurs and they can't tell the difference between a commercial aircraft filled with civilians and a military flight. And so what do? They shoot it down. I can't imagine that this was intentional in the sense that they meant to shoot down a commercial jetliner. This is going to give Obama what he needs, which is to get Europe on board with these sanctions against Russia. So strategically, it's a blunder by the Russians. In actuality, the Russians probably would tell us, if they were going to be frank with us, we didn't plan this. We didn't plan this, and we are going to regret this. That's probably what they would tell you, because geopolitically, this was exactly what the West, particularly the United States, needed to get Europe on board. Obviously, Iran and China and everybody else is still dealing with the Russians, who are not going to be the friendlies with us. But the Russian economy is starting to hurt from these sanctions, and some more sanctions may, in fact, restrain Putin from going further. So it'll be interesting to watch how this all plays out. But again, I would think that Obama should be able to play a strong hand on this now because of unfortunate loss of life, which is just a terrible thing, quite frankly. And caller, you're on the air.
Carl, how's it going tonight, brother?
Good, man. How are you?
Hey, it's all right. This is GG.
Yeah.
Wanted to give you a call, talking about the Malaysian air flights and World War III and all that stuff.
Well, we talked about that, yeah. And what do you think?
Well, hey, I agree with you. I believe that it's the start to something much, much bigger. These weapons, I seen earlier yesterday, the head of the Russian militia, you call it, is actually part of the old CIA or whatever. He's real close to this goon over there. What's his name over there
Putin.
in Russia?
So he must have been a KGB guy, huh?
Yeah, right. So, it's sort of like, to me, they have, United States funds different things like the CIA and different, what I would call terrorist organizations, like Al-Qaeda. So I think that it's basically just, funded by the Russians to do what they really can't do out in the open, so to speak, if that makes sense to you. So we're like an underground Russian government, if that makes sense.
We've had, and I mean, just to explain it, we've been having proxy wars forever. So a lot of people consider Vietnam one of the original proxy wars. We in Russia can't fight directly, so we fight through our intermediaries.
Right. And I feel that with this going on and everything that's happening, I just feel that this is just the start of the beginning. We're in trouble. We're really in trouble when this happens, and if it happens, because since the last time we've had any type of conflict with Russia, we've done so much to the rest of the world and taken from people to where if we're down, they're just ready to hop on us and put us the rest of the way. I feel that, maybe Obama should take these immigrants and put them in United States uniforms and send them over there and fight if that's the case.
Well, actually,
you want to be part of the United States? Okay, fine. We'll let you in. You go right into the military. Go over there. You make it home. You get your citizenship. That's how it goes. That's just how I feel.
Well, historically, United States is not the only country. Many countries have accepted immigrants into their armies with the idea that it could lead to citizenship service in the military. And in fact, we have people serving in the military who aren't citizens. That's not a prerequisite to actually serve.
Right. Well, it's a big, great opportunity to send some people over there, because for us to send people over there over just one, I think there was one American on that plane. Okay, I mean, nothing against the rest of the people that passed, rest their souls, but it's not for us to get involved with. They're not letting people in over there to investigate the crash scene. It's a terrorist action. You're never going to get the answers.
Well,
let them people
actually,
fight it out. What are you going to do?
The problem is the Russian fingerprints are on it, because when you light up a commercial flight like this with the kind of equipment they did, which is a radar, and you have to light the plane up for the missile to take it down, our satellites, quite frankly, read that whole thing. We knew the transmissions. We know the radar frequencies that these things use. That's why the U.S. is so confident it was a Russian rocket, because we know exactly what was launched and where, just from sensory data.
Right. Yeah, everything's on the map. You know what I mean? You can tell. Google knows everything.
Yeah.
Google probably knew where it was coming from.
Well, but seriously, we have satellites that monitor all those frequencies, okay? Because obviously if something's launched in one of our own crafts, we want to know that what radars have been turned on and where.
Correct.
And so the Russians are not going to be able to weasel out of this one. This was not some roadside bomb where, like the Iranians keep saying.
I agree totally. But I mean, what are we going to do about it? Really, what should we do about it?
Well,
why should we do anything about it?
We're trying to slow Russian aggression down and Russian expansion. And so what we will do about it is use it as a bludgeon to get some of the European countries who've been reluctant to join us in sanctioning Russia to have to do something, because they're going to have to answer to their own citizens now. Who are going to say,
if it costs American lives, it's not worth putting thousands of American lives at risk to go over there and do anything.
Oh, no, I don't think we're going to go over there, but we're going to use this as a geopolitical check.
Sanctions may lead to war. That's what I'm saying. It could lead to war.
And sanctions can lead to tensions. And it's these kinds of incidents, by the way, throughout history, which have actually escalated into wars, because, there's a bunch of people running around the Netherlands right now who are really pissed that their relatives are dead.
Right. They deserve to be.
You sank the Lusitania, and suddenly America comes into the war. The Maine gets blown up, right? And suddenly U.S. comes into the war. Not just limited to U.S. Throughout history, whenever certain terrorist acts have occurred, it's drawn people into conflicts. And this just heightens the tension. Now, we could turn tact and say, let's look at the Middle East right now. Iran's still working on their nuclear deal. They're going to continue to work on a bomb and claim they're coming to an agreement, but we're on some slow road. The Israelis are busy bombing the hell out of Hamas.
300 or 400 teenage and preteen girls that were taken in Nicaragua or somewhere like that.
Africa,
okay?
Over in Africa, yeah.
Africa, okay. To me, that's an act of terrorism. Okay,
correct.
You're taking people. You're stealing kids straight up. And nothing was done. Okay, they probably sent some troops over there, to help, find them. But there was no active, let's send planes and guns and all this and that. It didn't do nothing to help them kids, and they're still alive. These people's been blown out of the sky, God rest their souls, and they're on the ground.
Oh yeah, no. But this,
you know what I mean?
Let's compare apples and oranges, though, Gigi. Gigi, let's compare apples and oranges, though. Here's the problem: as sympathetic as we are to those kids, that's in a African nation who's not particularly been cooperative and who isn't geopolitically important in the strictest sense as the Ukraine and Russia are, and we're actively engaged in sanctions and a form of economic warfare with them right now. And this just ratchets it up. I'm not saying we're going to send troops over. What I'm saying is these are the incidents that lead to the conflagrations that eventually become the Great Wars.
Well, I agree what you're saying. I believe that something's going to come out of this. I've said it since the day it happened. I'm sitting here working. I see it come up on the TV. I'm like, oh, boy, here we go. You know what I mean? Like, hold on to your horses. Because that whole day, I felt like the world had changed. You ever see an event happen on TV like 9/11? When you seen that, you knew right then the world had changed when that went down. Okay? There was a sense in the air that something had changed in the world that day. And I had that same sense whenever I saw that plane go down and them say that Russia blew it down. So it's, you know, it sort of to me was the start of the war, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, so I just figured something was going down. I wanted to call in early. I see you're on them retirement hours now, 8 to 9.
Well, it's summertime, my friend. I wanted to enjoy the fresh air.
Fresh air. I know what you mean. If it's fresh, I don't think it's fresh anymore, but get some air. I know what you mean.
Yeah, the outdoors, the great outdoors.
Yeah, enjoy the great outdoors. Well, I'm going to leave you go. Hope you have a lot of callers in tonight.
All right, man. Thanks.
Opinions. You have a good night.
All right, man. Don't forget to share the show on Facebook. All right, Gigi. Thanks.
Definitely will. No problem.
All right, man. 717-916-5189 if you want to call in again. 717-916-5189. Yeah, so, you know, I agree with Gigi. It's not worth American lives, end quote, whatever we want to say. But at the end of the day, the problem is we're involved. We're involved because we're the ones ratcheting up to sanctions. We're involved because we're the ones who are the lead members of NATO. And this affects NATO security. This affects American security. And it is a big geopolitical mess. This all takes place in a context where we've got Israel literally pounding into Gaza, trying to rout out Hamas. And, of course, the news media coverage, 14 Israeli soldiers dead and, X number of Palestinians dead. But they never seem to separate Palestinian they seem to separate out Palestinians in between militant Hamas members or Iranian operatives versus actual civilians killed. I don't like the way they cover that because, the Israelis lose soldiers who are casualties of war, and the Palestinians lose people. And it blurs the line a little bit. But Israel can never expect fair coverage. I mean, that's just the way it's always going to be. I don't envy their position at all. And unfortunately, the Hamas and the militants behind it are so dedicated, so absolutely dedicated to the ending of Israel's existence that I don't think they have any choice to do what they're doing. Now, let's turn to Iran for a second. Iran is over there baiting us along on this whole negotiation while they build this nuclear weapon. While I think Obama is handling Putin okay with the sanctions, and I think he's going to play, and he has John Kerry out there basically putting the Russian fingerprints exactly on this crisis to ratchet it up, to use it as leverage. So I think he's playing this perfectly. On the other hand, I think he's playing Iran like an amateur, and that Iran is actually walking all over him, and it's going to be a game, set, match here pretty shortly when they announce they have a nuke. And I suspect that while Israel is busy doing what it's doing, the Iranians are going to feel emboldened that Israel's not going to open up on two fronts and attack Iran to take out any nuclear capability, as they said they need to. And I don't think Obama has the cojones to go into Iran and take out what he needs to. He may not even have the wherewithal to do it. I mean, it's going to be difficult. They may have hardened this stuff and hidden this stuff well enough that it's not possible. Unfortunately, we're going to have to get used to increasing nuclear activity in the world. And maybe Iran, maybe we stop them now, maybe we don't. But there'll be others emerging. North Korea, I don't even know what they're up to right now. They always come to mind. And, of course, there's always the danger of nuclear conflagration going on between India and Pakistan. The Pakistani government is extremely volatile. It's an extremely volatile regime to have nuclear weapons. Absolutely amazing that they haven't acted more poorly with them, given the volatility in their government. What else is going on in the world? Well, Cuba, right? What did Russia just announce? They're going to be opening up a old listening post in Cuba. That's a big FU to the president here. That's what Putin was doing as kind of retaliation for the sanctions. So again, this all goes towards my theory of escalation, and then it's when these random events occur beyond exact state control. In other words, Putin did not give these rockets to these rebels so they could shoot down domestic airliners. He didn't have that in mind at all. In fact, I'm sure somebody's head rolls over that. On the other hand, these are a bunch of roughs, and when you give a bunch of roughs weapons, you sort of got to expect this is what might happen. You know, if you take guns and you go hand them out to the gangbangers, you can pretty much assume they're going to misuse the guns, even if you had some plan on what they were going to do with them. Well, when you take the guns, in this case, the big rockets, heavy, specialized military weaponry, and you give it to what is apparently a bunch of drunks. News reports are that these guys are drunk and angry and not very kind and probably resemble the Klingons, which I don't think is coincidental, of Star Trek fame. You're going to get what you're going to get. So Putin gets what he deserves, but I don't think he cares at the end of the day about that aspect of it. Caller, you're on the air.
Carl.
Hey, Don, how are you?
Hey, dude, what the hell, man?
What, were you sitting around at 6 o'clock twiddling your thumbs waiting for me to come on the air?
Yeah. You have fans, man.
Oh, well, you know what? I posted it on the website a while ago. I put that out on Wednesday night that it would be 8 p.m. not start on Sunday. I mean, I can't help it that nobody goes to RomingerRadio.com as often as I do.
You must check it. I missed it. Oh, no, sorry. Damn it, man.
No, but you know what? Listen, with the sun shining and the beautiful weather out, I just decided that it would be better to start.
Irrelevant.
It would be better to start our dialogues a little later.
There are more important things in the world than that, Carl.
There are many important things in the world. That's true.
Exactly. We need your guidance and your dissertations on these.
Well, I'm going to tell you there's no global warming. I'm going to tell you that. How to stop Russian missile launches. And what else am I going to tell you about? Oh, did you see this thing, Don, by the way? I'm very interested in this. The labeling of genetically modified foods, or GMOs, genetically modified organisms. 64 countries require labeling if the food has been contains a genetically modified ingredient. And in fact, we don't even have genetically modified wheat in America, because we can't ship it overseas. So we don't want to destroy our wheat market, so we don't even grow it here lest we accidentally contaminate some of our wheat with it. And then it won't be able to be shipped in other countries. This Oregon is trying to get a ballot initiative together to force labeling of genetically modified organisms. And I don't really see the importance of it at one level, because I think it's much hysteria about nothing. I don't think the DNA, what DNA is in your food is really going to affect your health. On the other hand, I don't see why it hurts to let consumers know about it and let the market decide if that's what they want. I don't know. But Monsanto, big corporation, and a bunch of other big corporations who have vested interest in the GMO crops obviously are going to fight any labeling whatsoever, because they'd rather work in the background. So I don't know if you follow that at all or not, but it's I put a link up on Facebook, so some The Nation magazine or something sent to me in my email.
Well, Don, any cultivar is a GMO. So when you eat a banana from the Dominican Republic, it's a cultivar. It's a GMO. It's been genetically altered to be what it is, to make it the product that it is.
Right. So basically,
so what does GMO mean? I think that may be something that where we're politicizing. It's really not necessarily a scientific term.
It could be a kind of a wacky environmentalist kind of movement, as opposed to a well thought out.
Well, I've been doing some research, because now you guys, like some of your listeners, like Xander, have got me thinking about Alex Jones and his global conspiracy things. And I learned this term called fiat money.
Yes.
Are you familiar with that?
Yeah. Well, fiat money is it's any currency that exists because we claim, we just all agree by fiat that this is money. Right.
Well, that started in the 70s with our friend Richard Nixon, who did away with the gold standard.
Yeah,
so, right. The economy now is based on debt.
Well,
the global economy, not just the United States economy.
Yeah, well, and fiat money, I mean, has existed throughout history. The Chinese experimented with printing paper money, long before anybody else was. And actually, even monies based on precious metals are just fiats because, whether silver or gold has any particular value besides being a lump of precious metal, it certainly has uses in science and computers and things like that, and has commodity value. But the actual fact that gold is the precious metal that everybody wants is really just by fiat as well. We just all agree that gold's the thing that I would want. So even if the world comes to an end and we're in the post-apocalyptic world and I'm shaving little pieces of gold off to get antibiotics from some guy that are probably stale and bogus anyhow, that the gold really just is a form of fiat currency. What's he going to do, eat the gold? No, he's going to trade the gold to somebody else to get more stale antibiotics.
Well, the currency really, let's be honest, is oil.
Yeah.
And that's why Russia is posturing. That's why everybody's getting excited, because we've already reached peak oil. That happened in the 60s. The oil supply is declining, and everybody knows it.
And well, of course, now there's a question.
That's why we're posturing for war. You
think so? You think that's the issue?
I think so. That's what everybody's scrambling for, the last couple of drops.
Well, World War II, portions, particularly the Japanese theater, was all about Japanese expansion for the purpose of securing resources, right?
Of course, oil.
Oil. And that's why the Japanese, by the way, are in the process of turning their nuclear reactors back on. They had the worst experience with nuclear reactors in modern history besides Chernobyl and 3 Mile Island when the tsunami hit. And the public went crazy. But the reality is Japan doesn't have a really good way to power itself but with nuclear power. And so it's funny how political reality sometimes wins out even over public sentiment. And Japan's still resource poor. The natural resources and securing natural resources has always been one of the major underlying movements in any military action, because for some reason everybody likes to go to Afghanistan, where there doesn't seem to be much immediate mineral wealth or anything like that. But in reality, most police actions in wars involve countries that have lots of oil or lots of grain belts or high production of some kind of opium. Okay, well, or opium. There you go.
Yeah, there's the black market crops are pretty important, but oil is the big one.
Yeah,
it's our currency.
Well, oil really is. It's traded in dollars everywhere, and there's a reason for that, because by trading oil only in dollars, although they just started to change that a little bit, but by pricing all oil in dollars and trading all oil in dollars, you really are basically saying oil trades the same as the world's reserve currency. In other words, oil and the American dollar are really interchangeable.
Interchangeable, exactly. And the only reason we can control that is because of our military.
Right. Which
we pay for up at Yin Yang.
Oh, yeah, our spending is amazing. I just read a really interesting, you'll appreciate this, Don. I read a really interesting article on Israel's Iron Dome, where they're shooting down these rockets. And this professor was basically saying, hey, this thing probably doesn't seem as accurate as everybody says it is, and we should really analyze the data better. And this is the same guy who debunked the Patriot years ago. Because, of course, we were told during the first Gulf War back in the early 90s that the Patriot missile was just unbelievable. And the original assessments were, it had it intercepted 60% of the Scud missiles. Later on, they figured out it was more like 1% of the Scud missiles were actually intercepted by the Patriot, and the average miss was like 600 meters. So while you'd see some big flash, the Scuds were still crashing and blowing up. And the same thing's happening in Israel. They're claiming they intercept these things, but in reality, they're still landing and exploding, and that doesn't count as an intercept.
Well, that's, defense contract got to make their money.
Well, right. And so, wait, that's what brought it up, though, was the fact that our Congress, turns out we're paying for this thing. Our Congress decided to appropriate $350 million instead of $175 million because it's, quote, working so well, and they want to really roll it out. And it looks like another one of these military boondoggles where we've got something that might work, but probably doesn't work as well as advertised, but it's being hyped as, just impenetrable, therefore we should triple the funding. By the way, Don, I think Dwayne is with us. Dwayne, are you with us?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm just listening.
All right.
Sorry, Dwayne. I just started to jabber.
No. I just want to let you know he was here.
Carl is.
I wanted to let you know he was here so that we could.
Digresses all over the place.
I do digress.
That's okay.
Projectile digression.
I do agree with some of the comments. I mean, we're not only us but the world. We're operating on a fiat currency. I agree with that. I really personally every day walk around with money in my pocket and think that this stuff is paper. It's worthless. But I mean, yet we're forced to use it. And I mean, it's not worthless, but yet in a sense it is. I do have some gold and silver. I believe in that. And when I hold my gold and hold my silver, I feel something. When I hold my paper money in my hand, I don't feel anything. It doesn't make me feel good. And I still think one of these days, not only our economy, but the world's economy is going to have to go through a reset somewhere along the line. A fiat currency system cannot last forever. We're at the 101-year mark of our system, and I just think its days are numbered. I don't know what's coming, but I just don't think that the way we're working now, it's going to continue to work.
You know,
Wayne, it's actually called the Nixon shock.
Yeah.
Our current currency system started in 1971 by an executive order from Richard Nixon. He officially ended the gold-based currency. That's when we started our fiat currency.
Yes. And I
pretend money. Let's call it what it is. It's pretend money.
And I think that was a good reason that JFK was off. I think that he had some interest there that wanted to keep us to a gold standard, whatever that is, because I really don't even understand that.
The gold standard, the theory of the gold standard is that you have enough gold to back up all the money you've issued.
Right. But then who's putting the value at the gold?
Well, right. That's why I said ultimately everything is really just a fiat at some level. The most basic, here's a measurable form of currency, okay? The most measurable form of currency is I need 500 pounds of wheat to feed my family a year, okay? And one cow. So if I have one cow and 500 pounds of wheat, that has some value. And then as time goes on, right, and I have some surplus wheat, I'm going to trade it to you or a cow, and maybe you have some corn. And so, you'll take some wheat and I'll take some corn, and we'll switch this stuff around. And so all currency does is replace commodity in transaction. But let's talk about the next layer. What about all the money that's in savings, okay? What is a savings really? I mean, if money's in savings and people have, if I have $1 trillion in the bank that I've saved up, what does that really mean? Because what if I decide to spend it all at once, right? Maybe it's not as valuable if I spend it all at once. All it is that I now have an agreement with you or with somebody. I have an agreement with society or I have an agreement with, let's just say, the social fabric that I now am owed $1 trillion in something, right? That somebody will give me that and I can parcel it out and they'll give it to me. But I've got to think that if all that money that's in savings, right, and all that money that's owed as debts were called at the same time, there's not enough commodities or productivity in the world to cover all of it. So it's almost farcical in a sense because can't you oversave? If you save up too much money, then you've just got too much money, so that creates inflation, I would think. If you continue to build this paper wealth.
Well, Don said it earlier, where it's all created on debt. Well, I know in my personal life, and Don's personal life, and your personal life, you can't completely run your whole life on debt, but yet our government and it seems the world's government seems to think that you can. And it doesn't work for me. It won't work for you nor Don. But yet,
okay, so
for some reason, they think it works for them. But you and me both know that this $16-17 trillion that this country supposedly owes, this debt ain't never getting paid back.
So here,
it ain't possible.
Let's look at the history of Spain and talk about that for a minute. So Spain got busy mining a bunch of silver from the New World, okay? And Spain drew more silver out of the New World than all the silver that had ever been mined in human history before that, okay? So Spain had just fabulous wealth. And during this time period when they were out there just drilling silver out of the ground like crazy, selling it to the Chinese, colonizing the Philippines, doing all kinds of craziness worldwide, the Spanish government through the years kept going bankrupt. And the way it worked was the king, of course, was the power. So he would just one day say, I declare all my debts to you invalid, right? Well, he's the sovereign. He just says, I just declare my debts invalid. I no longer owe you the money. And he would do that, and the Spanish government would go bankrupt. And immediately after that, the king would then start borrowing money again. And you would say, who in the hell would loan this guy money, right? Well, the money lenders would, the banks would, because the king would then promise to pay, 20, 25% interest because, well, he might go bankrupt, right? So I'm not going to give him money long-term low interest. I'm going to give it to him on high interest and get my money and make my profit as fast as possible. And if you do the rule 72, at 25%, you're going to get all your money back in 3 years, right? And then you're really going to be making a huge return on your investment as long as he doesn't nationalize your debt again. And so the irony is, even though a sovereign nation fails to pay its debts and simply declares them, unenforceable, immediately is able to start borrowing money again. And the issue is because they have the power of tax. And the notion of tax is that the sovereign can take the people, the serfs, us, and take what we owe. Take our money, right. Take our things, and use them to pay the sovereign's debt. And so the sovereign always has one thing that no one else has, which is our stuff. Because here, I want you to think about this from a constitutional standpoint. And Scalia made a comment about when he was talking about taxation, said, well, you may have to revolt if taxation gets too high. Because what he was saying, and I agree with him, is that the United States Constitution does not say that taxation is unconstitutional. And even more interestingly, it doesn't say any amount of taxation is unconstitutional. And it says that you can be deprived of property. You only have to have the due process of law. So if Congress duly passes a law that says everything Dwayne, Don, and Carl own now belongs to the federal government as a tax, right? If they pass the law and the president signs it, there's nothing unconstitutional about that. And then when they come to take it, I say, well, wait a minute, I don't think they should be able to do that. Well, due process, as it was explained to me many years ago, and as I know it to be, is just the right to be heard on something, not the right to win or succeed. So due process just means you have an opportunity to say, wait, this isn't fair. And then the government says, well, okay, you've had your due process, you've complained about it, but guess what? We get to take it because the law was passed validly. And so what Scalia was basically saying is, the sovereign's ability to tax is absolute. And if you want to modify that, or if you don't want the sovereign to tax you, your only remedy is extra legal. If you can't get a political victory, which is to revolt. And so
all the more reason you and me need to run for president. Wow. What do you think, Don? I'll point you to a good cabinet position. What?
All right. Well, as long as I'm in, then I'm all for it.
Yeah. What
I'm
do
a
you want
whore
to
like
be?
that. I could be easily bought.
Yeah. You want to be the attorney general? We need a good one of those because we don't have one right now.
No.
I know. We'll make you treasurer secretary. What do you think?
Yeah.
See, now that's more up my line. That's right.
Yeah, I think that we'll make you treasurer. We'll throw them assholes out and put you in. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't think Don can be in the cabinet because he's going to try to make Puerto Rico the 51st state, and that's not going to go over well.
They already are.
I'm trying to keep all you stupid gringos away from there. It's more fun when you're not there.
Oh, actually, talking about Puerto Rico for a second, I had that issue one time with a translator where, I was trying to explain to a court that my client, the translator they had, just wasn't ideal because he was Puerto Rican and the translator really was more into the Mexican dialect. And, of course, that was completely lost on everybody. But I was like, all right, never mind. I guess Spanish is Spanish.
Puerto Ricans have a lot of slang. Let me tell you, when you get cussed out by a Puerto Rican, you better hurt when you walk away. They're really tearing you apart, man.
Yeah, and
they got probably 50 to 1 swear words.
And it's just it's not that the languages aren't similar. It's just that the dialect is and the usages are so
They
different.
really involve their imagination. They can come up with some really insulting swear words. Well, you get cussed out by a Puerto Rican. They're tearing you apart, but you probably don't even realize it.
Right. Yeah, and of course, somebody's going to think this is a racist broadcast and we're making fun of Puerto Ricans, but we're not. We're actually making fun of Don, who is Puerto Rican by marriage.
I'm an honorary Puerto Rican. That's right. So. I say whatever I want.
If it means anything to you, speaking of Puerto Rico, I've been toying with this idea of starting a pirate radio station, which I've already told you guys about. So I've been sitting down at night researching this shit, and it seems to me like I need to be a Puerto Rican to do this, because they're the ones that do it.
Oh, do they have pirate radio down there?
My wife is cooking up right now, Dwayne, just to let you know.
That's okay. That's fine, man, because I think it's funny, too. Because evidently they come into this country and they can't find radio that satisfies them. So they start their own pirate radio stations, and pretty much, wherever there's Puerto Ricans...
also on country music stations, dude. That's the problem. They want to hear Salsa, they don't hear stupid country music.
All right, I'm gonna try to add a third person to the group call. Let's see what happens here. Caller, you're on the air.
Hey, it's Don's favorite conservative.
Hey, what's going on?
Hanging in there. Am I on a blade right now? I want to make sure I gotta get this off.
I think you're on. You good?
Yeah, I'm hearing you live now.
All right, good. Don, you guys still here or no? Did I put them on hold somehow? I think I put those guys on hold. So go ahead, Xander. Go ahead and shoot away.
Ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. You're ready, man. Go ahead.
Okay, we live now.
You're live. You're live. You're live,
Okay.
Xander. Xander, where'd you go?
I am right here. Can you hear me?
Oh, I can hear you. You're good. You're good. Talk away.
Okay. I got a little reverberation in the back, about 3-4 second delay, but it's all good. It's quieter. Okay,
Yeah.
I want to just be clear. Alex Jones, yeah, he's a conspiracy. Got to take everything with a grain of salt if you want to listen to that guy. Don is dead right on that. As for the fiat currency, yeah, we have a fiat currency. I'm not going to deny it. But I wanted to talk about the Monsanto thing.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. I want to know more about it.
I have some couples that I know, and each of their kids, they have a kid with full-blown celiac disease. For those that don't know, that's like a gluten sensitivity.
Mm-hmm.
And their kids can get very, very ill. We're talking in the hospital if they get stuff with gluten in it. They could be using a shampoo that just how it's made and whatnot might have some gluten in it. And it might not say it on the label, gluten. There's a lot of different names for it. But labeling and research is very, very important to them. Because, everybody's born with a different valve in life. Some people will have no allergies. Other people, look what peanuts can do to somebody. But I think I allowed a link on your Spreaker link about just a website in general that alleged how much they've spent regarding the companies, the corporations.
Mm-hmm.
We could debate for as long as we want. Okay, is it harmful? Is it not harmful? I just think that there should be transparency so that the consumer has a right to decide. And I think that big old Monsanto and a lot of the other companies, they got money to lose because, organic is a little bit trendy and other stuff. And I think they're trying to protect profits over transparency. And I just think, let the consumer decide. I mean, that's what freedom and capitalism, give us the facts and let us decide. Don't force us to not know.
Right. There's a woman that does a food blog, and she's been instrumental in getting some labeling issues done and bringing out, what's in certain things. And she had something about Corona beer on there recently, where if you look at a Corona in America, it tells you nothing about what's in it. But if you go look at the label in Germany, it tells you, I think there's sodium alginate or something in it, which is like a foaming agent or a thickening to give it a slightly different mouthfeel. I don't know if I'm using the right chemical or not, but I think it was something along those lines. One of these seaweed extracts that they make that makes things more jellied, but of course in small amounts, just kind of maybe stiffens up the liquid a little bit and gives it a different mouthfeel and makes it foam a little differently. But, for some reason in America, you've got to list what's in my Pop-Tart, but you don't have to list what's in my beer. So you can throw those additives in the beer. And I'm trying to remember. I'm going to have to find that girl's blog and put that back up on Facebook because she's been. It's really interesting. She hunts this stuff down. That's her gig. You know what I mean? She hunts down these hidden things in various foods. I know she was instrumental in getting Kraft to start taking some kind of artificial coloring out of some of the macaroni and cheeses because they had removed it in other countries. But because the other countries had regulated it as harmful, but here our FDA had not decided it was harmful, hadn't said it was good for you either, and brought out that again, Kraft took it out of other countries' food, but not ours because here in America we didn't have any particular concern about it. That leads to the question about how much politics play in. Same thing with nutrition and supplements. The FDA for a long time has had regulations that I can't say that this drug will, make you longer, stronger, and faster. But if it's a medicinal herb, I can, at the GNC, put something on the label that this is good for your heart or this is good for your arteries or this will make you more virile or whatever, as long as it's a vitamin or nutrition supplement and they got a congressional exception. It drives the FDA nuts. Because they feel like you can now market supplements and vitamins in a bad or in a way that you couldn't do with something that's actually good for you or been tested. In other words, you don't have to have any actual efficacy or safety studies with these supplements before you can start touting them. And that's a congressionally created loophole that was won by the supplement makers and the vitamin makers because why? They want to sell more supplements and vitamins.
I think it's a two-edged sword regarding the natural stuff. Yeah, you see in a label, it hasn't been approved by the FDA to do this, that, or this. I mean, I was a cyclist for years, and everything was about, to be honest with you, being able to ride harder, faster, longer. But, naturally.
That's what biking's about, yes.
So,
first thing that comes to my mind.
Protein powders, I've done my research, stuff like that. And, it's like anything else. If things work for you, you use them.
Right.
But I just think it still comes down to, like you said, the political aspect. I think when Washington was going over theirs in 2013 about the labeling controversy, DuPont and Monsanto's allegedly spent like a combined $12 million on lobbying, let alone all the other companies, to fight the law that would say, you just got to let the consumers know what's actually in your products.
Right.
It's about money. I really think it's about money and power.
Yeah, well, it's all about money and power at the end of the day. Politics. I guess when you have urbanization occurred in human beings, right? And we moved out of our feral nature and into more bigger and bigger groups or groupings or pairings or whatever. We had to develop some kinds of rules, and in developing those rules, I guess you had to put somebody in charge, and then eventually the guys in charge always end up with a bigger share of everything. It just seems to be the way the world works. I'm not sure it's inevitable, but it certainly seems to be inevitable across capitalist societies, across communist societies, across all kinds of societies. I don't know. Xander, I think Don's back with. Don, you back with us?
Hey, Xander. What's up, buddy?
Oh, Don's favorite conservative. Just trying to add to the conversation.
No, I have no favorite conservative.
Although I think
who loves you, babe?
You guys were being very nasty with each other on Facebook. I was disappointed in both. No, not really. But
oh yeah.
Don, no offense, right? But you're kind of like an 8-year-old sometimes, just like trying to, throw stones and sticks and get a little attention. And Xander, of course, he plays into it. So I have to admonish both of you. But it does make for good discourse.
That's my debating technique, Carl.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
I just take it down to the 8th grade level. I was the best debater I was the best homeroom debater in middle school. Oh, good. That's good to know.
I bet you were a master debater, weren't you?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well,
for the record, I never lost a debate in high school in my debate classes, but hey, I'm making the challenge now on the Carl Rominger's live radio.
Yeah,
Don,
right.
you recommend 3 books? I will read them.
Oh, that's right. Don was going to give you 3 books. Don only reads picture books, so this will be interesting.
Exactly. Xander, honestly, the books I would recommend to you know what I mean, would be a waste of time.
Now, wait a minute. Okay, now the gauntlet's been put down, so here's what I expect.
Right.
Stevens, here's your homework assignment. Find 3 books that you've never actually read and claim to. Then put them on Facebook. And that way we can put them for Xander, okay?
War and Peace is not allowed to be one of them.
No.
Probably, if I had to guess, Don's probably read Dianetics. That's probably in his repertoire somewhere. Actually, Portnoy's Complaint would be a good one for you, Don. You ever read any Philip Roth?
No.
No, you should read Portnoy's Complaint. In fact,
literature, dude, I don't do literature.
It's kind of like literature.
Person.
Yeah, Philip Roth. It's modern literature.
I'm a nonfiction person. I like science books. I like books about history and science and things that are actually real.
Actually, Don, you might like, of course, another fictional book, Haunch, Paunch, and Jowl. But that one's kind of an oldie but a goodie. And that's sort of got a communist bent to it, so you'll fall right into it.
I discovered. Here, Xander, here's book number 1, Remembrance of Things Past by Marcel Proust.
No offense, Don, my phone and it feeds a little muffled. Just please post them on Carl's thing. I'll look for them.
Well, wait. The reason I want him to post them on
analysis of that.
The reason I want you to post all 3 on Facebook, Don, is there's many other people involved in this who are going to read these books, and then you're going to be in trouble.
Well, I'll see you in about 3 years after you read that one.
You should actually post Avery Stevens' diary to Facebook. That would be worth reading.
Oh, that would be a short one.
You must have one of those, you must have found one when she was in the 8th grade or something, held on to it. You could pull that out, and we could read about boys and stuff, those icky boys.
Well, you have to remember, I'm not the only parent in the equation.
That's true.
You're familiar with that.
Yeah, that's true.
Right.
I've got 3 parents, 2 mothers and a daddy. No. Which also reminds me, of course, there's always these studies claiming, that kids in same-sex marriages are better off than kids in heterosexual marriages and all this stuff, and it's not really refined. I don't really buy into that. I really don't buy into that, but I don't think they're any worse off either. I don't think they're any worse off either, though.
You're...
Yeah.
No, come on. You said you really don't believe in that. Now, why exactly do you think?
I just think are
different from 2 loving parents.
Right. I think the question is whether parents are loving and involved. So let's just talk about this, right? If 2 guys get together and they adopt a kid, well, guess what? There were no accidents. So as a result,
they planned to have the child. So there's.
Right, and I think that's the self-selecting mechanism that changes it. In other words, if I'm shacking up with some girl and remember isn't there a Bruce Springsteen song about this, about going down by the river and you knock the girl up and then your life sucks after that, and so I think that in other words, anytime you have 2 loving parents who really wanted to have a kid, you probably are going to have if you control for that, I think that the 2 loving parents, doesn't matter whether they're men or women. Although, if you really want to go with that theory, since women are usually probably more loving and better with little kids than the fathers are.
But I think you're being sexist when you say that.
All right, than the fathers are. Listen, here's my observation. I call it reality. I'm going to call this reality, but it's my observation. Men usually, in my observation, have less interest in babies, but when their kid reaches a certain age and starts doing cool stuff that the guys actually want to do, like flying model rockets or lighting firecrackers or doing frog hunting or whatever men like to do, but can't do because they're adults now, but they can do it if they're doing it with their kid. I think that, in other words, women seem more nurturing with the little kids, and men seem to get much more active with their kids in a day-to-day sense when the kids reach a certain age where they're fun to hang out with and can do stuff.
Oh, you're lucky, Carl. Your kid is at a cute age right now. Yeah. But trust me, that cute turns into grizzly. He hasn't reached puberty yet. Puberty is the tipping factor.
Yeah, well, we'll see what happens, you know.
Sweet little kids turn into rotten monsters.
Rotten monster teenagers. Well, yeah.
I think it has a lot to do with your preparation for the kid, too, because, you know, you have to look at us as biological creatures.
Right.
You know, and understand what puberty is all about. I mean, it's nature, right?
Oh, yeah.
So
yeah.
you can't fight against it. You can't hope to change it. You just have to work with it. And if you work with it, you can manage your kids so they don't end up making stupid decisions.
Yeah, makes sense.
Right?
Right. Well, right.
It's like if you worked for Hobby Lobby and you were poor and you couldn't afford to pay for your own contraception, your insurance company wouldn't pay for it because your boss was a Christian and didn't think that you should.
Now. We know Hobby Lobby provided 16 of the 20 things on the list. They just didn't want to provide stuff like the morning after pill.
Right. You can still wear the...
If you want a dick hard pill, they'll pay for that. No problem.
To quote Monty Python, you can still wear the little rubber thing after Hobby Lobby. Which that's one of my favorite songs. Every child is sacred. Every child is sacred. Every sperm is sacred. I'm sorry. Every sperm is sacred. If you haven't seen The Meaning of Life, I mean, I hope both of you guys have bothered to watch that movie at some point in your life. But if you haven't,
Carl, if you're in Xander's situation, you just need to go to the hatchery. See how your offspring are born.
Yeah.
You can visit your kids in the incubator.
Well, see, my thing was, and I always like Monty Python because, you know, the Catholic guy's over there, you know, saying every sperm is sacred, telling his kids he has to get rid of them. And the Protestant guy's over there saying, well, we can do it anytime we want, dear. And of course they don't, which I just think is great humor. But although that girl wasn't exactly beautiful either.
Right.
But I digress. I just love Monty Python. What can I tell you? And I would play some on here if it wouldn't cause me to be some kind. Actually, that might be a way to get this radio show more ratings. Would be for me to just start, you know, violating all known copyrights, and just start collecting cease and desist letters and nasty grams and things like that. That may actually up the ratings.
Hey, that's an interesting concept. Because at what point? Okay, I want to know what the numbers have to be for you to actually get real, like, advertising.
When One Wipe Charlie will call me with the good news that they're ready to be an official advertiser.
I know. But so far as now, for right now, we got nothing.
No, we don't have enough. But you know, the answer is it's hard to say. It's hard to say. We're going to have to get some more market.
Is it 1,000, 5,000,
yeah.
10,000?
I'll tell you.
Really, what were the numbers at WHP? Like 50?
Okay, so let me give you
an AM radio.
Let me tell you. I'll give you some history here, Don.
Okay,
so when you do like the Durgan show, okay, Durgan would reach in a month. They would say like 60,000 plus unique listeners, okay. But you might have 40,000 of those people listen at any time during the 3 hours, okay. You know, like regular listeners.
A minute.
Yeah, like
they tune in and they turn out.
Right, because they're in their car a couple minutes, but you would have like 60,000 regular listeners, and then R.J. Harris had like 80,000 regular listeners, if I remember the numbers right, okay? And then on the weekends, when I did my show, you would, in an hour's time, in an hour or 2 hours' time, you would have maybe 10,000 unique listeners, okay? Because Saturday afternoon, you don't have nearly as much. But obviously, they still advertise the crap out of the radio on Saturdays and Sundays and overnights and that sort of stuff. But the listenership... But I can tell you...
Time when the Rominger show was cheap, I would imagine.
Right. But, well, no, actually they didn't. But I want to toot my own horn for 1 second. So after I was there for a while, WHP, during my legal talk show, we actually had ratings that were better than any of the other Clear Channel stations. So I actually had better ratings during my show than The River did and Bob FM had during that same hour, which was a big deal, actually, because they were like, huh. And that was because we had this really good following audience where we had regular listeners who would tune in to hear it, you know. And in that format, here's the problem with this show is, and no offense to you guys, right? The problem with this show right now is we don't have the call volume. And so if we get call volume, you can get snappier and you can go through more material and hear more people. And then what happens is in talk radio, a lot of times people want to call in, not to hear the host as much as to hear the callers talk to the host. Right now we're more like The View, you know. It's like I'm sitting around with a couple of haggy looking old ladies chawing the crap on TV.
Xander.
This is like the worst case scenario of The View. So if you think about it,
after. That's
right. This is like Rosie times 10, and so
I think Don's more of the Whoopi.
Yeah, he's Whoopi. I like that. Don Goldberg.
Yep.
So
that's me.
You gonna let Ted dress up in blackface again, or are you convinced that was a bad idea after the fact? Dwayne's trying to get back on the air, and of course, for some reason I can only get 2 people conferenced at one time. So if I grab,
I'll go off. Right. That way it's a middle of the road.
All right, well, we'll see what happens. Dwayne,
have fun with them, Don.
Oh, Dwayne, you're on. You might be on with everybody, Dwayne. Dwayne, if I got you,
buddy. Hey, buddy.
Dwayne.
Hey, Xanders. We booted his ass. Is he there? No, he's gone.
I think he's gone.
Oh, you kicked him to put me on.
Well, I don't know if that happened or if Xander voluntarily jumped off without realizing that maybe all 3 stayed on for the first time ever.
I was going to say, Don, you're far too hard on that guy, man. He's up on him. I mean, he's only hurt the ones you love, Dwayne. You know,
you only hurt the ones you love. Right.
You know, I told you on Facebook the other day, man, a little bit of compassion goes a long way. You know, I know, but look,